All right, hello everybody. It shows that I'm live on the air. This is Nerds on the Couch Live. I'd like to give you all a hello and thank you for joining us. It's Saturday, December 23rd, sorry, 24th. Getting all excited for it, but no, it's still the 23rd. And there's a couple of things I wanted to discuss. The topic for today is going to be the Star Wars The Last Jedi review. And I was hoping, and hopefully, maybe some members will want to join in. But part of it is this movie caused a lot of controversy, and I wanted to make sure that something was cleared up. We tried to give you I'm trying to think of the right word, a more direct review because lately, as I've been, I'm the sci-fi nerd. And Star Wars is part of my life. I absolutely love Star Wars. I am amazed by it. I mean, it shaped the very person of who I am. And I wanted to talk about Star Wars, The Last Jedi, because this last week, and again, it came out a week ago. The internet, Facebook, all that kind of went crazy with all these memes and all these videos and responses to it. This to me was actually very polarizing. And yeah, I guess we can honestly say this has become the most polarizing Star Wars movie to date. And so I wanted to come on here and discuss this, give you a thorough review, because I know my last review was a little bit jokingly, it was a little bit lighthearted. I gave you like a one-word review. And I wanted to really clear up the air about it because I am one of those people that is not 100% in love with this movie. And there's others who on different pages and different forums. And Nerds on the Couch, one thing about it is that it's respectful. It's actually, we work really hard at being respectful. The other nerds talked, and we had just a mild little group discussion, and we found it that it's very, very um, divisive. This film divided us. But again, we remained respectful. But again, in the other chat rooms, there's funny memes going and all that. And I gotta give you guys my little spiel on it. And so I wanted you guys to understand is that I'm gonna be here and I'm gonna give you my thoughts on the subject, my review on the movie, because I honestly feel that we need to discuss it. And part of it too is that I do think some of the stuff has been downright hostile, bashing Star Wars fans and all that for not liking the movie and all that. And I think that's just plain wrong. I think people are entitled to their opinions and people are passionate about Star Wars. And so they have a right to their opinions. And again, I stand with a not favorable review, and I'm going to get into that in a minute. I want to explain. I'm the huge Star Wars fan. I love Star Wars. I grew up on it. Like I said before, it shaped me to who I am. Part of what I am is Star Wars, and I enjoyed all the movies. I even enjoyed episode one, two, and three. Again, not extensively, but I did enjoy them. And then I especially enjoyed Rogue One. Well, first of all, I enjoyed episode seven. I knew it wasn't the best of the Star Wars. Actually, I thought it was decent. Again, what did it repeat? Yeah, it did repeat certain elements. There are parallels to it. I can't deny it. There is. But the other part was that I'm coming off from Rogue One, and I thought Rogue One was absolutely brilliant. I thought it was uh, an amazing Star Wars movie. And I thought, okay, this is showing that they're respecting the material and this is Star Wars. But going into The Last Jedi, I kind of had a feeling that there was no respect for certain elements. And this is what I'm starting off with because I went into the early showings. I was one of the few people in El Paso, Texas, who went to the early showings, and I was all excited. I sat down and I got into it. I was really looking forward to it. And so just before I'm talking spoilers here. There's a little spoiler warning right there. And when I saw the evacuation thing, I was like, okay, we're starting a little excitement here. I get it. I had no problems going into that first scene with the space battles and all that. Yes, his Poe was coming off a little arrogant. Yes, he did look arrogant. No problems there. And then my problem started when they jumped back into that moment with Rey and Luke Skywalker. And part of it, I guess maybe they build up that moment, or again, the fans did expect too much out of that moment. But it just felt so unlike Skywalker. And when we last saw him was Return of the Jedi. That he got the lightsaber and just, yeah. And some people kind of laugh. I remember the theater, being a theater, some people laughed at that. Other people were like, huh? And I kind of was like, what? That's not my Luke. That's not my Skywalker. And and then I was thinking of Irvin Kershner, who amazingly I was at, oh man, oh, feels like 100 years ago. I was at a panel with Irvin Kershner during a filmmaking seminar, and it was about films. And of course, he was the director of Empire Strikes Back, and he talked about that Star Wars had its own style, and that's, as a director, that's what he had to respect. And he said that coming into it, he was directing Empire Strikes Back, and he had a vision, but at the same time, he realized this was the vision of Star Wars, and I have to respect this vision, and I have to flow and keep it in this style. And same thing as a writer, if I'm writing my own stories, then they're my own stories. I can do anything I want. But if I'm writing for DC Comics, or I'm writing for Marvel Comics, or I'm writing for certain job assignments, I have to keep within that style. And having Luke throw that lightsaber out and all that to me uh, was not his style. It did not really appeal to me. And so I'm here just talking, and then, and I see the lightsaber, and then he says nothing, and again, we're all expecting his words and all that. And it kind of threw me off from that moment, but I was like, okay, this is a movie. I still kept up with it. And then some of the things that were coming on, that they're having the running out of fuel, the energy, they're being followed. Okay, I'm still there. I'm still, that's a Star Wars thing. I'm still there. Rey having to deal with Luke. And some of the issues I had, again, this is the issues that I'm pointing out, that Mark Hamill had these same issues, was that some of the character reactions, that he did not react the way I felt Luke Skywalker would have reacted. Like when he asked about Han Solo, about where's Han, I expected him to have a reaction, and they just cut it to me. And I think at that moment, that would have been a perfect time for him to have a deep emotional moment. And then the other time, when they're talking about Leia and all that, I would have expected him to have some kind of emotional reactions. Instead, he's like, no, no, I'm not going to do this. No, no, I'm not doing this anymore. And even though he's traumatized, we see it in the story how he was traumatized about it and all that. Um, I expected him to have a deeper connection. I mean, he had such a love for Leia. He had such a love for Han. I mean, they had that bond from the first set of movies that you think they would have gotten a little deeper emotion wise, but instead he kind of blew them off. And there's another issue that kind of just got me in the heart. I was kind of like torn. And I'm still in the movie, but at this point I'm at the theater like and again that's my review. And we're getting on with the story wise, and they're being traced. They have these cannons, and it's become a chase movie. And a chase movie hasn't been done in Star Wars, where it means that a group is trying to get away and they're being chased around. There's different movies, but there's a plot formula to a chase movie. And so right away I picked up on it, and okay, they're going to have to go somewhere where they're going to have to try to outwit the chasers, or they're going to have to find some way to stop them. Okay, so far that is not a problem. That's perfectly fine for a story. But then when it starts getting the jokes they keep tossing out, like, hey, there's naked Finn with fluid spewing out of him. That was terrible. Okay, that absolutely was terrible. And I'm going back to Irvin Kershner, who said Star Wars movies have to have humor. Because when he did Empire Strikes Back, he said that movie was dark, and it's as dark as it gets. But you cannot have gags. He said this. You cannot have gags. Humor, gags. This director jumped and he started putting in gags. With Finn running around with water spewing out of his suit. That that wasn't Star Wars. That scene, if I was a director of it, and again, I'm coming in from somebody who respected Kirshner and respected the movies, I could have done a humorous scene, but not with water spewing and all that. I would have had Finn coming out disoriented. I would have had him, with an empty suit or something, a little more respectful, a little more realistic. And it still would have been humorous. People still would have gotten a laugh going, what happened? Where am I? What happened to this? You know, and him being caught up on it, that would have been a funny, humorous moment, but it wouldn't have been a gag. See, and that's my example again. And some people want to tell me that that's acceptable. Well, it wasn't to me. And so again, that's why I'm kind of still like irritated with it. And then we jump on back to Ray and that milking scene with Luke. I'm like, somebody online, John, if you're still here, uh, what's up with that milking scene? I know it was kind of a throwback to the blue milk from Tatooine and all that, but that had nothing to do with anything. Um, and then yeah, that was just plain. That's where I started having trouble with it. Again, I'm giving you my reasons for why I'm keep having trouble with this movie. And then him being, or again, Ray discovering the archives books, which again is really significant in the Star Wars universe because books have not been used at all. They've used electronics, holocrons, all that, but old-fashioned books, that's extremely low tech. So that was cool. But then we go back and we find out that there's issues going on. They get attacked. Kylo Ren is yelled at. He's being called weak and all that. And okay, little boy has a fit, smashes his helmet. which I'm still in it. I'm just still in it, but I'm having an issue with Kylo Ren too because at this point, I'm not liking him. Not even as a villain. You know, there's villains that you just hate, and then there's villains you want to see dead, and there's some that I just want to smack. It's this guy. This guy again. No longer is. I no longer find him threatening. You know, if he wants to go at me and all that, okay, he can kill me. But I'm just not intimidated by him whatsoever. And so I'm jumping here. I'm jumping around. And part of the other thing that got to me was not necessarily that scene, but just the scene with Snoke, which again, we're going to discuss that a little later. He's just not intimidating anymore. He was just not threatening. And then all of a sudden we jump to this like Finn needs to go and find some way to sneak into the Star Destroyer and stop their tracing. And at that point, I'm kind of like, I'm following again, kind of weak points there because at that point I'd be like, well, how are they tracing us? If they trace us through light speed, um, hyperspace, how do they do it? Let instead they're like, well, we got to jump in there and break the computers, but if we do it, they'll find it again. I'm struggling here, ladies and gentlemen. That's again, that's another struggle here. And so they're like, okay, and so he runs into Rose and they agree to sneak off and Poe's helping them out. And that whole casino Vegas planet thing was completely pointless. Them being told to look at a guy with the lapel. Instead, they find the other guy. And I was like, well, what about the guy with lapel? Wasn't he important? Well, why are we jumping to this guy? And I'm like, okay, you know, Benicio del Toro is kind of a cool guy. So I'm like, okay, let's see what's up with him. And I think he gives the better theme of this whole movie, which is like good, bad, doesn't matter. You know, he pointed out to like the ship they stole from, and this guy, they were like, hey, look, and they show a hologram. He made the TIE fighters. He made this, that, and the other. And they're like, oh, so we stole from a bad guy. And then he hits a button again. He made X-Wings. And they're like, hey, he sold to both sides. And at the end, that's really what it is. That it doesn't matter. And that's and that's really what I'm walking away. Is this the theme of this movie? It doesn't matter that there's good guys, there's bad guys, and there's always going to be good guys, bad guys. It doesn't matter. The universe doesn't care. Oh, that's kind of a bleak one, but and again, people say no, that's not how it is. Yeah, that's kind of it is because then I jump and you see Luke freaking out, and you see him how he's traumatized, and they start, and again, Ray and Kylo start connecting, and man, Kylo has a weird body. I mean, he's got a wide chest, skinny arms. Yeah. um, can't skip arm day if you're working out. Um, which again, I find that connection that they're talking to each other just weird. But okay, I'm still with it. Okay, Force works in mysterious ways. And then it jumps that they're talking to each other, and Luke is still like, no, he disconnected from the Force, and that the Jedi have to die because again, he blames themselves that everything started. And then jumping to the next part that, well, one, let me just point out that Las Vegas planet thing to me kind of just annoyed me. It really didn't add anything. I really didn't feel any excitement with that part. I think that part kind of like fell short. it wasn't even like exciting. Really, it just didn't really appeal to me at all. I mean, I would have cut that scene off, not completely, but I know I could have cut like half of it off, or somehow made it more exciting. It just really threw me off. And then jumping to that, where they escape and they sneak into the Star Destroyer, and it looks like they're going to sabotage the plans. They get caught. Benicio del Toro kind of like stabs him in the back because he points out once again, doesn't matter whose side, it doesn't matter because he's kind of saying, you're going to die, they're going to die. Who cares? And so I'm like, at this point, I'm kind of like that in the movie. I'm like, who cares? I'm honestly lost my investment, my ties to this movie. I'm just watching it now just to see. And this is my problem. They kind of show that it doesn't matter. And again, it jumps again with Luke Skywalker reconnecting. And he's tempted to burn down the archives and all that. And Yoda shows up, which again, cool cameo. Nice to see Yoda around. And he talks about the book, and Yoda calls down the lightning and he burns the books. And he's telling them the same thing. Doesn't matter. It's going to be how it's going to be. And so now I'm here watching this going, if it doesn't matter, why bother? Let's just all kill ourselves at this point. Why bother? And then you come up with Finn going back. She snuck into, or she got captured to confront Snoke and Kylo Ren. Her friends are captured. We're going to have another escape from the Star Destroyer. I keep wanting to say Death Star, but no, it's Star Destroyer. Oh, boy. Kylo Ren just decides to turn, kill Snoke like that. Yeah, I get the fan theories and all this coming up and all that. Um, but, at first he was showing like what a badass force user Snoke was. He was bending Rey and shaking her and throwing the power around, and he really didn't feel that lightsaber turning and zapping him, slicing him in half. Well, Darth Maul survived that. Then again, they had another issue that came up with, again, the Force. The fighting with the Red Guard, or the Elite Guard again, and Kylo and Rey. Okay, that was cool. That was interesting, but I still had trouble because I was like, wow, that's really not interesting lightsaber or fighting. That was just not good. I mean, there was no excitement in that part. Honestly, this is my opinions, ladies and gentlemen. I thought that fighting scene was kind of boring. I get that they joined forces and it looked like maybe Kylo Ren's turning good, but no, he decides, no, I'm going full evil. They start splitting, and they kind of warned him, saying that as his powers grew, something equal was going to match him. The yin yang, and then they proved it when both Kylo and Rey were trying to take the lightsaber back, and they blew themselves up, I guess, when they exploded that lightsaber. Again, lessons. There's good, there's bad. It doesn't matter. See, this is the problem I'm having, is that they're saying it doesn't matter. They jump into the end. They land on that planet. It looks like they're going to have a standoff. They use that lady sacrifices herself, which I guess she had some importance, but I don't read the books. I mean, honestly, I don't. The novels don't appeal to me very much, and so I guess she has some importance because she's a lesbian character. And at this point, who cares? Let it be. Who cares? And yeah, that was a cool thing using hyperspace to blow up. And then they go to that old planet and they have to stand up with those crappy little speeder ships that don't even fire weapons. And I'm like, why are they even bothering at this point? Because you have no weapons. You might as well have gotten into old Chevys and raced toward them. You know, you're fighting people who are throwing blasters at you, and you're racing toward them with ships with no guns. So no win scenario there. And then finally they all reunited and all that. Luke shows up. Again, that was supposed to be my cool moment. I'm sitting there watching this. I'm like, okay, Luke's gonna come in, save the movie. Okay, he cut his hair. Okay, he looks a little better. That rush off scene when everybody blasts at him, you know, he just brushes it off. That lightsaber battle with Kylo Ren, I thought that was cool. And at this point, I was like, please don't die. Please, I don't want to say Kylo Ren killed you. Oh, that would just hurt so bad. And then it turns out he wasn't there. Cool moment. Cool moment. Again, not disagreeing. That was a wicked cool moment where it turned out we all saw he was projecting himself. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. He gave a chance for the rebels to escape. Okay. Ray shows up, uses the force to pick up those stones. Rebels pack into the Millennium Falcon. They get out. I know I skipped a bunch, but I'm just giving you the rough edges. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the climax. A projection of Luke Skywalker held off Kylo Ren, and it turned out that it didn't matter, which again, the theme of this movie, and this is what's bothering me. And so please correct me, please. Okay, I'm waiting for an explanation. Was that it didn't matter. Yoda said it. You know, Benicio del Toro said it. It doesn't matter. None of this matters. Rebels get away. Luke is still on that planet. And then you see him fade. And I'm like, oh, they killed Luke. Come on, man. I mean, to save it, I could have seen them like, okay, here's the rebels and all that. We're going to go pick up Luke and we're going to start the rebellion. And you'll see in the next one. Instead, Luke fades. They're on their, they're on the Millennium Falcon. Rey shakes Poe's hand. Everybody's happy. Everybody's together. And then we end with a kid telling the story of Luke Skywalker. And somehow he uses the Force to grab a broom. But then I'm still remembering, well, the theme of this was that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if this kid can use the Force. It doesn't matter what's going to happen. None of it matters. See, and that's my problem, ladies and gentlemen. The theme I'm seeing when I saw this movie was it doesn't matter. Just like this podcast right now. Nobody's watching, nobody cares. And in reality, I just walked out so negative out of it because I was like, okay, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Rey is going to maybe teach other people. The rebellion's going to start again. Kylo Ren is now supreme leader. None of it matters. It's going to pick up again. If it's not them, somebody else is going to do it. And so, ladies and gentlemen, that is my problem. That is the number one thing I walked away with. There was no hope. There was no ending. I just walked away with the feeling that it doesn't matter. And I'm not completely against that movie. I don't want to say I hated it. I was entertained by it. I found interesting parts of it. When stuff was good, it was good. The lightsaber battles, again, not enough of it, but what was there was entertaining. The character development of Poe, Finn was there. I even liked Rose. I thought Rose was an interesting character now. We're adding new blood to the series, and I thought, okay, it worked. The idea again of Carrie Fisher was magnificent. Especially when they said that line about death, saying that nobody ever really leaves you, nobody's ever really gone. I that struck really deep with her because I loved her. I always wanted to meet her when she was going to be near me. She unfortunately canceled because she had to do reshoots, and it broke my heart that I'm never going to meet Carrie Fisher. But again, I thought this was a fitting last movie. Overall, I have to say, as movies go, this was a pass. This was a solid B. But again, for Star Wars, it needed to be more. And I know fans loved it. They think it was the greatest thing. But honestly, I just explained my reasons why I don't get it. That's my solid reasoning. So please, if you want to share your opinions and all that, the spoiler bans have been lifted. And please, let's share your thoughts on our Facebook page, Nerds on a Couch. Thank you for watching. Those are my thoughts.